I gathered some leftovers that I have in my shop because I want to show you in this video how I make cutting boards. I ended up with some cherry wood that I picked up the other day from a lumber store in Winnipeg, and this, to be honest, this store is not necessarily known to have always the best prices, but if you want to make cutting boards, they always have a good assortment of leftovers or cutoffs or shorts. They sell for a good price, and it's not it's not lumber that I would use for furniture, but for cutting boards it's good enough, I'd say. As you saw, first I trimmed down that board on my miter saw to get two shorter boards out of it. This here is the cutoff from the table saw from the cherry wood, and it will end up in the middle section. And then for the middle section I use some walnut here. And I want to use this opportunity to share a quick tip with you for cutting very thin strips of wood. If it's too dangerous because the gap between saw blade and fence is too close that you can't even use a push stick, do what I do here. Use an old piece of wood and use it to push the wood through the blade. I do this all the time, there's nothing wrong with it. So the first board is ready to get glued together, and you see here already that I didn't even bother to plane those boards. This comes later. So I apply the glue on the cherry wood. It has some live edge on it, the cherry wood, and I'm usually not a huge fan of live edge, but for those cutting boards, it looks pretty good, in my opinion. So it glued here together, one strip of cherry in the middle, and then two very thin strips of walnut, and then cherry from at the sides again. And while I clamp it here, the glue up, yeah, you see here that I always look down to make, or look under the board a few times to make sure that it still sits flat on this little helpers that I have here where I do the glue up on. And this, I do this just to make sure that even the glue up is as flat as possible, because the better it is, the more flat it is, the less work you will have after to get it like 100% flat. Here I'm working on the second board, and for this one I also picked some cherry wood that I bought the weekend before, and in the middle there is some I think it's also walnut and some sapele, and I rip it down on my table saw to make it thinner. And those little strips of sapele and walnut I had left in my shop, so it's came from another project, so it's pretty much, I would almost say, for free, just for those cherry boards. I paid, I think I bought, or I used here, two boards, and I think one was $13 and the other one was $15. So it was not cheap, but it was a very, very good price. But like I said before, I would not necessarily recommend to use this lumber for furniture. apply the glue again. Don't need to see every detail of it, so let's speed things up a little bit. Put the clamps on, put one clamp in the middle, and then I check if the board is still flat, because sometimes it happens when you do the glue up, as most of you I guess already know. The glue up has a tendency to cup and warp. It just, like I said before, it just helps you to have less work after. You want to get rid of most of the ooze out, most of the glue, as it's wet, so that you do not have to do this with your planer and kind of ruin your blades. So the second board here, the one I take the clamps off now, I did the glue up in the way so that the sap would be like inside, and I kind of, how should I say, I mirrored the boards, and that gives the look as it was like look of like a river in the middle of the board. You know what I mean. You're gonna see this later. Now I plane down those boards, and I do not aim for a certain thickness. I just plane it till all the planer marks and burn marks are away. Then I trim down the edges. So let's talk about a little bit about cutting boards in general, because I think that's why many of you are here, because you saw this on the thumbnail. I never went like all into that cutting board game, because I'm a furniture guy. I'm not a cutting board guy. But if you're into cutting boards, all fine. I do sometimes cutting boards, because sometimes I go on those trade shows where you can sell your stuff, and in the past sometimes it turned out that it was a good idea. I sold a lot, and sometimes I didn't sell a lot. And the reason for that is, I think, if you do not have a big name, and that not a lot of people know you, that you're the cutting board guy and he's making great stuff. If you do not have the name, it's really hard to sell your cutting boards, because there are too many people selling cutting boards online and on shows and everywhere. So nothing is more frustrating, I think, than spending lots of time and hours into making one of those like gigantic fancy walnut end grain cutting boards, and then you just don't sell it. Nobody's buying it. It happened to me that I went to a show, and people stopped at my table, and they saw my cutting boards. They said, "Oh, this looks so awesome. This looks so fantastic," but then they just don't buy it. They rather bought something cheaper, like Coaster, or even sometimes I always sell these spatulas that I make. If you're interested in it, I can make another video from it. But they never buy those expensive cutting boards. So my recommendation is, make easy cutting boards. Make simple cutting boards. What I do here is you saw that it's so simple. It's so easy to make. Not a lot of time, not a lot of hours that you have to put in there. It's so simple, and then you can ask for a cheap price. So those those boards probably I would sell for, I think, for not more than maybe 30, maybe $40. And I know this maybe trigger some of you, and you want to say, man, Nick, this is you can't do this. This is too cheap. You can't. You should ask more for that. And I agree, I should. But then nobody would buy it. They wouldn't buy those cutting boards if I would sell them for like 60 to 80, or if it would be an end grain cutting board, like $100, which you should. But nobody would do that, as long as you, in my experience so far. But if you make easier cutting boards like this here, you can sell them for a lesser price, for cheaper price, and then people would come. Like last year, I went to a show in a place nearby from us where we live, and I sold like a lot. I made a lot of easy, simple cutting boards for a lower price, and people bought like crazy from me. So my recommendation is, make, like I said before several times in this video, make easier cutting boards, sell them for a lower price, for a cheaper price, and just accept that. If you want to make those fancy cutting boards, those end grain cutting boards, I mean, go for it. There's nothing against it, nothing's wrong with it. But just to prevent you from being too frustrated, make easier cutting boards, make simple cutting boards, and I can almost guarantee you they would sell. So coming back to those boards that I made here, as you saw, I applied some mineral oil on it, and I also applied some mineral wax on it, some cutting board wax, some walrus wax and oil. And man, look how beautiful this looks. It looks so fantastic. I love it. And if you agree with me, or even if you don't, please don't hold back. Share your thoughts in the comment section below, and please give me a thumbs up if you liked that video, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.